Sean Day for Phil Yates and Jeremy Jones.
Thanks, Rhiannon. Yes, Eklund Kachi on the left is well known to pool fans around the world.
On paper as being the lesser player, really come through for the team. We saw it a couple times with China so far to make it to the final 16. And it's a team effort here in the Scotch doubles field, and it definitely takes two.
I'm a great believer in the law of averages, though, and sooner or later one of these big teams is going to run through one of the lower teams.
Yeah, and you expect more of it, especially with more table time at the table, as the rounds go, and a little bit of confidence, always winning a match, trying to figure the breakout, and not a bad one here for Team Philippines. What looks like going to be possibly an early win on a 2-9 carom shot. And a shot like this, when you're such, in my opinion, a big favorite to make the 9, I kind of disregard the 2 so much. Don't get too involved with trying to play a two-way shot. I think it takes away from your accuracy on the 9, and it's just kind of one of these shots that if you don't make it, at least you went down probably playing the right shot. Well, that I didn't mind as much, Phil, because he actually tried to make both. It wasn't like a two-way as far as safety involved.
Yes, only the most minor of contacts on the 9, actually. But it's looking good.
Yeah, and Philippines, I saw them this morning. They got here early to practice. Oh, now watch the overrun. We've seen this a few times, and more than a few times, actually. Okay, so he's, you would call that short and tidy position, but definitely a little closer than he wanted.
Last night in the China-Chile match, one of the reasons China were pushed so close was that Wu Chia-cheng, his positional play was below standard, and
extension call.
So many times he overhit the ball. So many times.
Yeah, and then really Liu kept him in it at the beginning, even though they fell behind. But some solid safety play by Liu behind some misposition play, as you mentioned, by Wu Chia-cheng. But now on to the Philippines. A little thin 5-ball here, so he's got a choice. He can go 3 rails with a little top left English, which is, you know, probably usually the second choice. Usually when you can zigzag the cue ball back and forth, kind of over his hand right now, back out to the center of the table. Yeah, that should be pretty good there. And this should get the Philippines out to a 1-0 lead and hold them serve. It's not going to hurt here, but normally you wouldn't want your partner on the rail, so a little bit probably overhit, I would say, which has been the norm. So again, Carlo, he'll just zigzag the cue ball right across his hand again, somewhere around there off the second rail, back towards the 8.
Efficient, this. From the viewpoint of the Albanians, not only efficient but also ominous. The Philippines take a 1-0 lead. Please, from now on, don't commentate, just tell stories. Fantastic. Eklund Kachi breaking off in rack number 2, trying to equalise.
Well, a nice spread there, making 2 balls and dressed up perfectly on the 2-ball.
Just to clean things up with that Filipino story, I think one of the early pioneers as well, of course, was Jose Perica.
Yeah, always back home when he got introduced, he was the leader of the invasion, the first one as far as the top players to come over. There were a few before him, but not the names like Jose Perica or Efren Reyes. And I think this is important for Albania to get maybe a couple easy starters to settle. And we saw Kachi's partner play really well in the first match, but we don't know if that's going to happen always. So these first couple to get started here in Rack 2, I think very important for Albania.
Bisar Spahiu is a member of the Albanian police force, and he was saying after his first match that the good thing is for him, although he's on leave, that leave will be extended indefinitely while he's still involved here, so doesn't have to worry about going back to lay down the law in his native country. Just laying down the law on this table, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and as I heard it, not only has extended vacation and play here as they move forward in the tournament, but as he does better in pool period, he'll get more openings and more chances to go compete. Pretty sweet. A little funny here though, Phil. He's gotten a little bit on the wrong side of the 6, so he may have to draw this cue ball back towards the 8, so that when you have to go towards another ball, it's a little bit dangerous feeling.
Bisar isn't the only law enforcement officer who's done well at Q Sports in the world of snooker. The 6-time world champion Ray Reardon, he was a policeman for quite some time.
Well, we talked about Kachi. He struggled a few times in the first match, but I'll tell you, I watched him practice a little this morning. His timing looked better, and right here in the first rack, that little nice shot from the 4 to the 5, and then that little drawing the cue ball back behind the 8 from the 6 to the 7. I really like the look of the timing, and if that's any suggestion on what we're going to see, we're going to have a close match here in our opening day 4.
And Bisar, the unknown quantity in this Albanian team, is looking good as he did in the first match, and that's a real plus for the Albanians, who are now back.
Okay, the one caught the point, shot straight down the rail. He cut him a little too much. That's why we didn't see the opening of the rack like we have in the first 2 games. He's got an offensive cut on the 2 ball here, excuse me. But there's a lot of danger just kind of randomly not knowing what the cue ball is going to do. It's going to go into the 5, it looks like. So he may not want to take a chance here, especially in this short race to 7.
There's no doubt about it that Carlo Biado is the more measured of the 2 players. De Luna the more inspirational. Also fair to say Biado is the more successful of the 2 players.
Oh, definitely, and no knock to Jeffrey, that's for sure. Carlo, though, one heck of a resume. And it seems to be, doesn't have the U.S. Open title yet, but it seems that he shines in the biggest events. Many-time high finisher in the World 9 Bowl Championships. And just a guy that's super efficient, great shot maker, makes good decisions. I think that was a good one there. Now I'm a little surprised he's going after the jump here, just because it's so thin.
Extension call.
I think the 5 and 4 are quite a ways away, so he's got to put a little steam on the cue ball, and this Rasan really jumps easy. So he's got to be a little aware of the cue ball not getting knocked off the table. And the reason also is there's a 2-rail kick on the 2 ball that, with all that congestion in the middle of the table, I think he could get safe pretty easily. But a lot of the guys these days go through the jump cue pretty quick, and I can't blame them, as great as they are with it. Oh, and he stabbed it right in.
The 8 also went in. You're right though, Jeremy, the ability of the players these days to jump, it's eye-watering.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big majority of talent, but also the technology in the jump cues these days is amazing. And not only with the jump cues, all the equipment. Okay, that's got to kill nicely, and that's a pretty good touch.
I'll repeat, this Bihar Spahiu, not used to this exposure, TV cameras playing for such a large amount of US dollars, and yet he looks completely acclimatized.
Well, that certainly he's very comfortable with his partner, but that opening match where he played very solid, you get nice feelings from that, and you just kind of repeat what you were doing there as far as your temperament, timing of the stroke, and decision making.
And one thing I must also tell you, he was here last night ploughing a lone furrow in the practice room, no one else around. As we left the building, it was after midnight. Tells you a lot. He wants this.
And as far as Kachi's concerned, he's probably going to settle in better after his partner's performance. You know, that could have weighed a little bit heavy on him in the first match, not knowing how a young Basart, inexperienced, is not going to, you know, you don't know how they're going to perform in this setting, and it's got to make Kachi feel really, really settled and very confident that they're going to play solid.
The Albanians are the epitome of solid. Look at that. They lead 2-1 after losing the opening rack. The Filipinos know they're in for a battle. Team Philippines.
Albania to break, leading 2 racks.
Duos from this pool-loving nation have won this Bed Victor World Cup of Pool on 3 occasions. These two, Biardo and De Luna, are trying to win it for a record 4th time, but standing in their way pretty sturdily at the moment, the Albanians. Besar Spahiu breaking off in rack 4. They lead 2-1.
Well, again, just the perfect speed to get a nice spread. Now, I'm not sure if the 8 got in the way. It looks like, well, I think he's offensive here. Yeah, he's immediately looking at the 5 to see if it goes. You can see he just needs to stop his ball, it looks like, on the 2 to hold for the 3. So no reason not to take a 3-1 lead here for Albania.
The looped bridge we saw there from Kachi, which is used in pool an awful lot, not so much in snooker or billiards.
Yeah, it's actually a great tool in 9-ball pool and pocket billiards. Something pretty essential. Even the guys that changed over from snooker, and ladies, Allison Fisher, Darren Appleton, they all knew they had to develop a closed bridge. It's all about cue ball movement from distance usually. Or normally if you're cueing on the bottom half of the ball. Big shot here, little distance on the 4, fairly straight.
And there's the loop we were talking about.
He's gotten him perfect on the 5, though. If you're going to shoot to a half a pocket, you don't want to have to cut it much. You want to be kind of looking straight at where you want to hit.
Extension called.
And you can see the position is easy.
Metaphorically, the Albanians trying to keep the Filipinos out of the loop.
Well, from that angle, actually a little fortunate catching the 7 and the 5 still going in. If he catches the 7 any thicker, I think he misses the 5. But nevertheless, again, no reason not to take a 3-1 lead here. One thing about Albania so far, not only do they look solid, but the break. I love the way the break is looking.
The coefficient for success in the World Cup has always been how good is the number 2 in the team. And that's what I like about these two. Spahiu playing beautifully.
Yeah, you might say that Kachi kind of feeding off of that in a sense, because he definitely looks better this match than he did in the opening match.
Albania lead the Philippines 3-1.
And it seems like all the teams are just exclusively trying to play the 1 on the break, and they're all getting better at it. Really nice timing on the break that time. You can see a nice spread.
Early in tournaments, the break can be a mystery, but it's very quickly solved.
Okay, I guess he feels like he can soft spin this, or is he going to go back and forth? Okay, great shot. Using maximum right English to try and contact the 2 as heavy as possible, making it easier to hold the cue ball for the 3. Now again, similar shot that Carlos played already. He'll probably zigzag the cue ball back and forth. Again, right over his hand for the 4 in the upper right hand corner. Oh, okay, he played it a little lighter. Is he going to get on the 50-yard line? Should be okay. There's some concern from the 6 to the 7 though, Phil.
Yes, and in a match of this quality, if you do make a mistake, quite often it's magnified.
Extension called.
Well, especially the way it looks like Team Albania is set to play here in this second round match. All second round matches today and here in day 4. Okay, great stroke there. Getting a lot out of the cue ball. This is gonna be a little funny here, because the angle is telling him he's drawn on top of the 7, which is what he may have to do anyways. Just take a chance at a little bump on the 7, maybe a bump into the 9 as well. So when you shoot a shot like this, you're probably going to kind of try to slow draw it back. That way nothing really bad happens, some type of snooker. You don't want to let it fly. Oh, he put a little more on it, but I like that pace. It would have been pretty unlucky for something bad to happen. Certainly didn't want to run into that 8. It turned out okay, but a bit fortunate. And the Philippines set up to get out here in the 5th game, and exactly what they needed.
Well, we've seen a few 9 balls missed already in this tournament. This most certainly is not a certainty.
Well, it's all about the cue ball, Phil. As the cue ball going towards that side pocket, he's got to get through this, hit before the side.
Nicely done. Well, a very good standard here. We've had 5 racks played, 4 break and run outs, and the Albanians' lead is trimmed to 3-2.
Well, he's missed the one on the side and therefore broke dry, and now the Philippines with a nice shot on the one. You can see the 2 near. So a great opportunity to level this match at 3. Don't really see a whole lot of issues. Of course, there's work to do. But anytime you get those first 2, 3, 4 balls next to each other at this level, you got to figure they're going to run out. And you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 right on that end of the table. So don't do anything fancy. Just keep it. Ooh, he got him dead elevated here. Shouldn't be a problem because it's a short shot. But it's sitting right in between to where he certainly doesn't want to hit it hard and go back and forth being elevated. But sometimes when you hit it soft, could get a bit of a kick. And that's the one I was talking about. You see how heavy it caught to the hole, and that's what happens when you have to hit the ball soft and you're hitting down on it. The cue ball tends to grab the object ball a little bit more. And I tell you, that one might have stood up if it was a little later in the day.
We'll give him the 4. If they sort out 5 to 6, well then it looks like being tied up. But it's a big if now because they've dropped 2 straight.
Yeah, well, I probably think they didn't want to flirt with coming across the table too much anyways. They would have liked a little bit of angle just to get a little bit closer to the 6. But I think they would have shot it from a... I would go ahead and just take it from right there. Yeah, Carlo's going to tell him this is fine for me. Draw it back 4 or 5 inches.
Extension called.
Let me just shoot the 6 and go back and forth for the 7. So you should just pinch this back a little bit. Yeah, that's perfect. They would have liked to have had an angle to go towards the 6 and do the same thing just to get another foot closer, but that shouldn't be a problem for Carlo. He's already shot a very similar shot to this 2 times in the match. So a little low right English. Could come 2 rails for the corner or the side. Kind of what he prefers. Okay, watch out. That might get on top. Oh, nice. It checked nicely. Boy, what a partner to have.
A match thus far in which mistakes have been virtually eliminated. Catchy, broke dry, left the 1. The Filipinos then went about their business. It is 3-3 and a very impressive performance, one has to say, from all 4 players out there. Of the way they've played, the Filipinos have to be pleased. If they aren't, there's something wrong, because they've looked sharp, they've looked confident. Having said that, as Jeffrey De Luna breaks off in this 7th rack of this last 16 match in the Bed Victor World Cup of Pool, the Philippines are only on level terms with Albania, and we're now deep into the contest. 3-3 it is.
Albania's opening match, you could definitely say that Russia underperformed by quite some margin, you might say. And Basar played very solid. So a little different story here. Both teams playing exceptional pool so far. Both games that have been kind of taken away from the other. It's been a jump shot and one dry break is all now. Big shot on the 1, elevated over the 6. He's going to try and just come straight across. The key to here is just don't overhit it. Just a nice clean medium speed is enough. Nice shot.
Yes, Russia were staggeringly poor, weren't they? Considering the personnel on show. A little different when you're coming up against the Filipinos.
And Russia, Fedor Gors, neither guy played their game, that's for sure, and both of them would tell you so. Fedor had taken a bit ill back home before this and felt he was 100%, but we just didn't get to see it in that first match. That's got to slow down a little bit. That's got to slow down a little bit, and it's not gonna. And that's where you don't worry about close so much. You really have to understand that Jeffrey De Luna can handle 2 feet away. I understand it's still one that you still feel like over and over again. Man, how's it keep going? But if you're watching out the matches, if you're playing out there, it happens time and time again. You have to realize to guard against it, Phil.
Extension called.
And there's a common denominator. That cue ball just keeps rolling and rolling. The surface is so fast. And that's something you've got to build into the equation.
Yeah, you have to be very conscious of it. You have to learn from it. And it's a very common thing when it comes to the TV matches. The table bed is almost always going to be faster than what you think, faster than what you're used to. But really, in my opinion, no excuses to continually do it.
Well, pretty much maximum distance here between
Extension
cue ball and
called.
object ball.
Well, he's got a chip shot here to where he could chip the left side of the 5 and then run the cue ball a couple rails back and use some distance. That's about the only thing I see besides an offensive shot. Well, that's asking for a lot right there to try and... He wanted to hit it thicker and let it come up to maybe leave a bank shot at most, but I kind of like chipping that ball and trying to use some distance on the 5 ball. At least the 6 is down table, and they probably going to have to make a long shot and move the cue ball quite some ways. And he's still got to come on one here, even though the 5's over the pocket. He's got to dig on the cue ball. Oh wow, great effort there.
Now that's when you're glad the table's fast and responsive, because on a sluggish table to get that much action wouldn't be quite as easy as he made it look.
Well, that's for sure, and he didn't even go 100%. That was only about 60%. But the thing is, he kept the tip exactly where he wanted. Good timing with the stroke. Got really the most out of the cue ball. Jeffrey De Luna with a fairly routine 9 ball. Nothing routine in this setting, that's for sure. We've seen a few 9s missed.
The Philippines were 1-0 up, 3-1 down, and now they're back on the plus side of the ledger. The scoreline reads 4-3.
And And those guys should hang their head high. Really, dry breaking 6 times, getting beat 7-6 by such a great Filipino team. Nothing to be discouraged about at all. Yeah, it seems like these guys had a beat on that one ball on the side, and now it's been a couple of racks to where not the results we had in the first few games.
That's the thing with the Filipinos. They can run racks like the best of them. But when it comes to the tactical aspect of the game, some of their leading players over the years have been magicians.
Yeah. Namely, Efren Reyes, the magician when it comes to pocket
Push out
billiards.
called.
But it's a lot of how they grew up playing. They play under very tough conditions in the Philippines. So it's not always just a break and run fest. You really have to learn how to play the game. And what is this? This is a big mistake if he gets behind the 3. Okay. Still, though, he's left himself in a... I don't know if he can get to the right... Did he hit the 1? Or did he roll out? No, he just rolled out. Okay.
Touching ball, apparently.
Oh, touching ball like snooker, right?
Yes.
And when you've got a touching ball, you can expect a lot more than they achieved there.
Right. Well, that's a rule that it's not always played in the U.S. It's a rule that Buddy Hall believes in. I'm sure you've heard of Buddy Hall, a rifleman.
In virtually every commentary I've ever done, his name is mentioned, so he must be a real character.
Yeah, well, character is one thing. He's a pleasant guy to be around, but just when it comes to the history of pool, many consider him the greatest 9-ball player that's ever played.
Extension called.
And like Buddy, he considers Earl the greatest that's ever played. Earl considers Buddy the greatest that's ever played, and many others consider both of them the greatest that's ever played. Now we got a bunch of the greats here, right here in Leicester. Oh, okay, they did call a push out, so that was handed back. Pretty crafty little shot he tried to attempt there, playing the 1 into the 4 solid and using the 8 as a snooker.
Pardon? I think so. Yeah.
Okay, he's looking right now. Can I roll this in naturally and avoid that corner pocket?
Extension called.
Meaning the corner by the 7, and I don't think he really can. So if they want to go offensive into the side, they may have to cue down on this. I don't think I would even try to play it. It's just a little funny shot, a little dangerous. It's hard to hold position on the 2. I think I would chip the 1 and run the cue ball behind the 7. You always want to be aggressive, and you definitely know how these guys think aggressively. But this is a serious consideration to me as far as shooting at this. Yeah, I just didn't like it from the get. And it's I don't know. Did he leave him a piece of this? Little sliver? Oh, he can make it, I guess. And you can tell on that last shot that Kachi was never settled with the shot clock. He kept looking at the shot clock, talking to the referee.
As soon as the cue ball made contact there with the 1, De Luna's knees buckled. He wasn't quite sure whether it was in. It looked as though he might have overcut it, but it just about toppled into the abyss.
Yeah, but I really think he got as much of the 1 as he could, is what I think. I don't think he had the entire 1 where he could shoot it to the fat side of the pocket. I think he had to use the thinner side, and now a big opportunity to take a 2-game lead. He's just got to float this in and come 1 rail over for the 4 in the upper left-hand corner. No reason to play for the side, just real natural. Just a little bit of check left English. Oh, he came back for the side. Okay, and that's the type of shots, though, that when you're trying to cue the ball and draw it and hold it, the cue ball can get away from you. Speed can become difficult. Most would have just come across and played the 4 in the corner. You just see the players these days move for the side pocket a bit more than players years ago. The problem with the side pocket is it only takes an inch or two to really get you out of line, where the corners keep your patterns a little more solid.
Helpful to the Filipinos there that the green 6 ball easily passes the 9.
I think it's a bit straighter than Carlo really wanted, so he'll have to force this a bit. He may go forward to the short side. Nothing wrong with that. I think more of the players should look for things like that instead of moving the cue ball so much at times. Especially when shooting this ball in the upper corner with top English just moves you nicely into the 8. So he should just come down 1 rail to the right side of the 9. He could shoot it a couple different ways if he wanted to pull it with downward English, a couple rails, but I think 1 rail just float, and your aiming point is about a foot above the 9. Don't try to get straight. And that's good there. The thing is, when you try to get straight, Phil, it's easy to overrun it, and then you leave your partner a really funny shot on the 9. So above the ball here is pretty typical. Oh, a little righty here from Jeff DeLuna.
I'm always a little concerned when naturally left-handed players go right or the other way around. You never know what's going to happen. But in that case, DeLuna deposits the 9 ball. And the Philippines have won 4 consecutive racks. As a result, they now lead Albania 5-3.
Now Carlo had a nice break off in the last. We'll see if he can get that 1 on the side. Now, missed it again. So now we've seen the beginning of the match where the guys look like the 1 was a hanger. But still a sweet starter for Team Philippines to get on the hill here.
Yes, just look at this.
Yeah.
At the very last moment, oh, the 7 ball does them a big favour.
Well, he'd like to go back and forth 2 rails here. I believe the 2 passes the 8 in the lower right-hand corner, maybe in that side, but he'd like to cue this and go back and forth in between the 6-2, back for the 2 in the same hole as the 1, like this. And this is a big, big miss hit here. And that had a lot to do with cueing over the 6. I think he's got to go for this bank, though. I mean, it's too much of a winner. He's a big favorite to make it, I believe 8 out of 10, something like that. And he doesn't need to get so close to the 3, so it'd probably just draw. Oh, he's going to hit it with high ball. And he's playing safe. He's not even shooting at it. Okay, and I see why. A really nice kiss there, because that's cut off all the kicks, I believe. I'm not sure he can get by. Can he get by the 5 to get to the side rail to spin at the 2?
The police officer has been handcuffed.
Extension called.
Yeah, I think he may have to do something like swerving the ball by the 5 down to the rail and then into the 2. Something like that. I'm not sure he has any other options. The 6 is in the way to kick into the side rail. Is he looking at going 2 rails? Wow. Well, we've all seen this shot, if you love pool, by Efren Reyes, the zigzag shot he made on Earl Strickland at the Sands. I think that's what the Stars are doing. Oh, good effort.
Foul.
Well, this is the Morningside Arena in Leicester, not the Sands, but the sands of time for the Albanians might be running out.
So getting a little instruction by his partner there. Jeffrey was going to draw the ball by the 8. I think that's okay too, but a little more instruction by Carlo to go with a little high left English by the, oh my, a little punchy. Really a little fortunate to get by the 6.
Yes, that was cutting things fine, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was certainly not intended either. He wanted to be a good 6 or 8 inches left of the 6 there, and didn't want to threaten hitting that at all.
Voilà.
Now in a nice position, though. Just a little 1 rail out for the 5. You can see the 6 is in a pretty good spot. The 8's near the 9. And a right-hander can reach this no problem. He's gotten him over the 8 a little bit. Just the bridging, not too much as far as the cue ball.
That's what the Filipinos can do. They are quite a machine. They've placed a 5 spot on the Albanians, coming back from 3-1 down to lead 6-3. 1 more rack required for progress. For Eklund Kaci and his Albanian team.
6 racks to 3.
Well, there's a possible 4 racks left here in this second round match of the Bet Victor World Cup of Pool, and they have to win all of them. They're 6-3 down, and what's more, the opposition just happens to be the fearsome Filipinos.
Okay, went to breaking them head on from out in the middle of the table. Great results now. Could have worked out a little better as far as an offensive shot. Could play a 1-4 combination, but it's a little off angle and a little distance from the hole. So it may be something like just roll up on the 4 ball, probably something like that. Shoot the 1 and just let the cue ball coast to the backside of the 4. Touchy little shot. He could move the 1 a little further if he wanted. I'll tell you what he could do. Okay, he's going to look at the combination. And this sometimes the score can get the best of you on a decision. And I'm not saying this is a bad decision, but you tend to want to go a little more offensive when you're trailing. Oh, hit nicely.
I think the mentality is they're trying to make something happen. And when you think about Bisar's body of work in this tournament, even if they lose here, he can hold his head very high.
Yeah, he should get a bit more time away from the office, win or lose here, to get to try and compete more in the pool world. Okay, so a nice touch there, but I think a little bit on the wrong side of the 2. So it should be something like drawing the cue ball back to this rail, and then back over for the 3, something like that. Yeah, nice shot.
After today's performance, Jeremy, you're going to be a member not of the Red Arrows, but the Green Arrows. And Albania not going down without a fight.
Oh, like I mentioned before, I think there was one bad decision by Kachi trying to attack on a one bar earlier. But other than that, they've played solid. The Philippines kind of just taking it away from them there after a 3-1 lead. So the Philippines won 5 in a row. No reason Albania can't win 4 in a row to try and steal this match.
Very good stuff indeed. The Albanians actually have produced a pretty good performance even though they trail.
And I actually, being a first time in some type of captain position, I was a co-captain, I thought it was a good thing for our team to go to England and play rather than be at home to try and steal the cutback. Now here we have a dry break. Now are they going to come away with a shot? No, and I think he may. Speaking of decisions, I think they may have to just go ahead and go for this jump.
Well, early in the previous rack, the Albanians tried to make something happen with a combination that was questionable. Now will they continue to think about attack?
Well, another reason that helps this decision is where do you roll out against this Filipino teams? You can't roll out to an easier jump. You probably can't let them have this jump. You got to just bury it if you're Clinton Kachi.
Well, there's a supposed heat wave hitting the UK at the moment, but we're still seeing lots of jumpers.
Extension call.
Bit of a funny shot here, though. I wouldn't try to hold for the angle here. I would go ahead and draw all the way back across, trying to get more angle on the 3 to move the cue ball in between the 8 and 9. If he tries to hold for straighter in to get on the 3 to get on the 4, he could fall funny to where he's going into the 8 with the cue ball. So a pretty smart decision recognizing that by Basar, and now he's left him enough angle to move the cue ball in between the 8 and 9, a couple rails around, somewhat in the position it's in now. Oh, and that little rub on the 6 really helped the cue ball. I'm not saying it would have been totally out of line, but it would have been much tougher. That's for certain. Phil, if you pay attention to Basar and just his mannerisms and everything, he just can't wait to shoot. It's a really refreshing thing to see a young man that's not been in this position very often.
Really good observation, Jeremy, and in all sport you see this. Certain people have the makeup where they wilt under pressure, others embrace it, and he's the latter.
Now, is that enough to move the cue ball down low for the 8? I think it is, but he's going to have to add a little speed here, which power is definitely nothing Kachi is lacking. Just a little bit of a punch, kind of let it slowly float down towards the 8.
And remember, they break next. Albania refusing to go meekly, raging against the dying of the light.
Well, we saw the corner ball there, which is something we haven't seen very, very often. But what a nice starter on the one to take us possibly to a 6-6 situation. Well, here again, the two, you can see it. It has the available corner. You're going to have to shoot it with probably a little bit of angle. So main thing is here, don't try to do too much. Your partner Vasar pretty much making everything from wherever it lays. So again, just get the run started if you're Kachi. Get the cue ball somewhere in the vicinity it's in now, maybe a little closer to the two ball, but no chances. Don't take any chances. Okay, that looks perfect.
Someone in the audience is getting very animated, clapping loudly for the most routine shots.
Well, I think what we have is some Albanian fans that may not know the game of pocket billiards so well, but they're diehard Albanians. So definitely a one-sided cheer.
Extension call.
Again, you can play the three in the side. You can fall over for the other side pocket. Don't take any chances here trying to move the cue ball too much. It looks like he could follow it with top English and go by the 7, back up in between the 7-9 if he wanted. I think I would wrap the cue ball around the 9 for the 3 in the side myself. Okay, nice shot. He had plenty of room to get by it. Now he's coming through a little bit of a tight position, but Kachi should be able to handle this no problem. This is just a little bit of center with a little bit of left. He'll have to punch the ball a little bit just to get the movement going. He should come out 2 rails right by the 8, kind of on the path of where the cue ball's at now.
Sorry.
We can obviously see it's all the work in this rack, even though they've done a nice job through the first 4 balls, is 3 balls, excuse me, is from the 6 to the 7. Pretty interested to see how they play this. Most likely it's going to be from the 6 to the 7 with the top inside English 3 rails. I think he's looking to see if this ball's froze. This is interesting to me. I don't believe he's going to draw it. The one thing he has to do is avoid the 8. The 8's a big ball going 3 rails here. I'm not saying it's the worst thing if he hits it, but it could affect position on the 7. Yeah, and that's what I would have been worried about, Phil. I would have been worried about that 8. It just stood right in the way of that 3 rail path.
You called it from the moment the shot was on. You just knew that could be the stumbling block.
And I'm not sure that Kachi really had a choice. He could have got by it, but then also just having enough speed to get to the back rail. Is this going to go in? It's going to be a little hard. So the Philippines is going to have their opportunity. They're not going to have an easy shot just because the cue ball. Now, in my opinion, I think Jeffrey should just roll this ball in and let Carlo take a little bit longer shot. I don't like the elevating. No. Now, I don't want to dead roll it either. You want to maybe go to the head string and just let your incredibly talented partner knock one in from a little distance.
A hair-raising moment.
Extension called.
He's a great potter. That's the plus. The negative, he's a very excitable character. That's the negative.
Well, he's looking at the 7 in the side, and that looks like a dangerous shot to me. Oh, he's cutting the 7 in the side with draw, so he's trying to take an easier shot. But I think he's actually turning this into a tougher shot. Wow, what a great shot.
Thank you.
Perfect, almost perfect position.
He said thank you because there was no applause at all for what was
Try and sit
perhaps
still, please, sir.
the shot of the contest. I think the word perhaps is redundant there. It was, considering the context in which it was played, the shot of the match. The Albanian fans sitting silently. And that's because their team have muted themselves. It was a fine performance from Eklund Kaci and B-Spa Spahihu, but in the end the Filipinos come through another close shave. It was 7-6 in the first round, it's 7-5 here. They're into